we need approval of the minutes for November.
I move we approve the minutes for November.
Okay,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Great. Public comment for items not on the agenda. We didn't get anything sent in or questions?
Nope. Everybody's here. That's
Okay,
supposed to be here for items on.
all right, then we're on to items for discussion. Airport solar power. We have two firms.
Yes, we have two firms that submitted information for our solar power installation project. We've invited both of those to interview with the commission. Both of them are, the first one that's going to be up is Crawford Murphy Tilley, Travis Strait, and I'm sorry, Assad Bajwa?
Yeah.
Okay. They're going to lead off the discussion. The parameters I gave them was basically 15 minutes of presentation and then Q&A after, and I didn't give a timeline for that, so you can ask as many questions as you want. At the end of both presentations, Bolton Mink is the other firm, so we've got Carl here. Airport Commission can select either discuss them, but at the end of everything, the goal is to have you select the firm that you think is going to give us the best product. And we'll talk about the rest of the project and some other stuff after everything's said and done. So with that, we will start with
Our first presentation.
our first presenters.
We'll go ahead and hand out. So we got do have a presentation printed out here for you guys that you can follow along as you wish.
Okay,
You guys can have mouse and keyboard and if you want any of it. So
Watch out for the cord over there. I see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the first test of the interview process. Good tip, for sure.
Face plant, no good. No good. An engineer does not trip on the floor.
Not the electrical end.
Yeah.
I think that'll work. We'll take that over here. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the commission and airport staff members for the opportunity to put our qualifications, present our qualifications for this solar project. Maybe just kind of want to kick it off with a little bit of introduction of who we are. Crawford Murphy and Tilley. I'm myself, Travis Strait. I am the Quad City office manager for Crawford Murphy and Tilley and the aviation lead for Iowa and kind of Northwest Illinois region. Been working for CMT for about 20 years, my entire career in aviation, and have been with CMT straight out of college. With that, I'll let Assad introduce himself.
Assad Bajwa. I'm Chief Electrical Engineer with CMT. My expertise is aviation lighting. Part of the IES Aviation Lighting Committee with CMT for 28 years. I have done all kinds of different projects, and for the last about 10 or so years, got involved a little bit more in solar. Do a lot of different solar projects for our aviation clients.
Kind of going a little bit, a brief introduction to the company itself. So you met us now, but Crawford Murphy and Tilley, we're headquarters out of Springfield, Illinois. We have about 25 offices throughout the Midwest and kind of southeastern United States. A little over 400 employees in total, 25 offices throughout that area. We have 4 business units that we handle. Aviation obviously is one of our major business units. We do building site services, surface transportation, and water resources as well. We have about 100 people plus that strictly do aviation work, and that's all they do, including myself and Assad. We have the way the groups are organized, that's what we do, and we don't kind of jump back and forth. With that, 1946 is when we were founded. You can see that photo of the airport there. That's actually Capital Airport in Springfield, Illinois. That was our first aviation client 75 plus years ago, and they're still one of our clients to this day. So we've been doing aviation work for over 75 years, and it's kind of in our DNA. And keeping a client for 75 years is always a good thing for sure. Kind of moving on, as I mentioned a little bit ago, I am the Quad City office manager. That's where I've been. We established an office in 2015 to kind of better serve our Iowa, growing Iowa aviation work with that. And it's a multidiscipline office. We have aviation there and then a few of our other disciplines in the office as well. And, you know, continuing to grow that office as opportunities present themselves and as we move forward. You know, we're local, you know, we're within an hour's drive from you guys. So we're close, we're nearby. And when I say local, it's not just our Quad Cities office. If you notice, we have Kansas City, which is the central region's location. We actually have an office in Kansas City that does aviation work that's blocks from their office. You know, that can be beneficial if for some reason we need to, you know, have an impromptu meeting with central region or, you know, get some kind of boots on the ground, so to speak, at the FAA region. It comes in handy having an office in that location. And then just kind of, you know, a couple different offices we show kind of, you know, around the location that are in proximity to Iowa City that could fill in as needed if that additional staff is needed. You know, CMT, why CMT? That's, you know, always a question, right? You know, what I'd like to really kind of convey in this presentation is we do it all. We've done everything, we do everything. We have the planning and environmental expertise. We have the architectural and structural expertise. We have the structural expertise, and then design and construction expertise, and most importantly, the electrical expertise, all in aviation. We've done this at many airports. We work at 100+ airports currently, and we've had, you know, we've done this type of solar work at many of these airports. The one thing to kind of emphasize with that, you gain efficiency and time, kind of having all that service in-house. And, you know, structural, for example, you're looking at hangar mounting some solar panels. There may be a need to do some structural analysis for that work. And we can just kind of do that in-house and take care of that piece of the puzzle as needed. You know, my understanding is you guys have gone out for a request for proposal for solar previously that kind of didn't work out. And I think that's kind of one of the reasons for this project. And, you know, with that, we're able to deliver a designed project, full design, beginning to end, environmental, all the way down to ad-bid documents that you guys can provide your input, your knowledge, what the project needs to be, and then receive a bid for that, and then just move forward building it. You know, it makes it very simple in that process. So with that, it's a little bit about CMT, who we are and what we do. You know, I really just want to put the focus on the side here. He is our electrical expert in all this stuff, and he's going to kind of hit upon some of the projects we've done recently and just kind of share that side of the stuff.
Thank you. So for solar, like I said, we do a full service consulting and design services for our, specifically for airport clients. That include the engineering design for the solar, for the electrical system analysis. We do have our software, so we do glare analysis with the Forge Solar. PVSys is the software we use for energy production analysis. As part of the service, what I do personally myself is I do energy audit as well. So you go in and look at your infrastructure and your existing current load, how much energy you're using and how much energy you are going to be generating with the solar. That's how we size the system. Also based on the roof space and the ground space available for that facility. We do work with a lot of different utilities for net metering and have all the other analysis. Sometimes your existing transformer, like we looked at these buildings, they're limited to 150 kVA. So if your utility transformer is sized for a specific size, we have to go back to the utility to put that in a financial model. How much it's going to cost to upsize that transformer? Does it even make sense to go with a larger solar installation on that building or not? So as part of all these, as Travis already mentioned, we do architectural, structural, and all in-house design for a complete solar project. So there are some listed services we do as part of it. I do run all the financial analysis as well to make sure the system is, or the project is viable, as there's a solar renewable energy credits available. There's a new Inflation Reduction Act came out. There's a lot of solar credit. Some of the government entities now can get a 30% of the IRS cash back on these projects as well. So there's a lot of out there, but someone needs to know how to get that money and get that project more financially feasible for your airport. So this just a kind of snapshot of some of the airports we have done solar project. The closer one here is your Moline Airport, Quad City Airport. We were involved from start to finish with the airport to make it a complete project for their rooftop. They put in on their terminal building, concourse, and as well as their parking lot. The Bloomington, there's a hangar, big hangar going up there. It is under construction. We are putting a solar on that. That was also a fully designed system by CMT. It's go out for a bid, and contractor is installing it as a part of the hangar project. The next one is the Mid-America, kind of unique project. We had a lot of gates and some services that are far away from the grid. So it's an off the grid project I designed. It has the battery storage and the solar system, which will feed all the security system and the gates off the grid with the solar. And there's some of the other projects like Rockford and Springfield we talked about. They also have a big solar project going on, about 2 megawatt project going on. So this is some of the pictures on the Moline. As you can see, it turned out really nice. It's about 1.88 megawatt system that takes about 40% of their energy usage of the terminal building. This one was designed a little different because this is part of the RFP went out and it's a power purchase agreement. But the CMT was involved with from start to finish in developing the RFP, dealing with the contractor, reviewing the proposal, and then we selected a contractor. And now airport is very pleased with how the system turned out. They're getting a little discounted rate energy from the power purchase agreement they had, but it looked really nice. So. This one was the State Farm hangar at Bloomington. So like I said, it's under construction, but this is a fully designed system. CMT designed the complete hangar. It's a new corporate hangar, and it has a 250 kilowatt solar on the roof. We did complete design, including glare analysis, electrical design, and all the other airspace approval. Yes. So this is kind of our pride and joy. This is our CMT headquarters in Springfield. I designed this system myself. This is about our headquarters, 120 people in the office. We are 80% on solar. This one is our own system. We installed it, we designed it, we installed it, and we've been using it since 2007. All right, so as Travis mentioned before, this is what we do. We do all in-house. This is our expertise. This is exactly what we do. We do aviation planning, all the coordination with the FAA, glare analysis, and also structural, electrical, mechanical, all designed in-house. In addition to that, I have all expertise in working with the other agencies to get you solar credits and incentives. With that, we're going to be here for questions.
Is there any utility in having a backup battery in a situation like we're in, just perhaps to, for example, make the runway lights available in case of a power outage?
So the battery is like an energy storage. If you do a cash flow analysis with that, it's not feasible. The reason is the cost of the capital investment of putting a battery system in is expensive. Then there's the maintenance and the replacement cost. Then you need to add air conditioning and all that. So depending on the complete analysis, if you can save some money on your demand cost, it's a demand charge where the utility charges you on the demand load, which you can reduce with the batteries. That makes sense. But if you're only using for the backup power, I think the generator is still your better option.
So you've had a chance to look at the facility, how things are hooked in,
Yes.
and the possibility of being separate for each of the different entities.
Correct.
And you've looked at having some on the ground, some on the roof. and whether the hangars might be able to deal with some on the roofs?
So there's a kind of process with sizing the system. The first thing we do in a concept is do a system size. The system size is always based on your current load, your energy consumption, and it's an year consumption. And then we work with the utility on the net meter. So how much energy you can generate. Solar is like a bell-shaped curve. So it start generating 7 a.m. by at 3 p.m. It's gonna be at the maximum output. So you wanna make sure that the utility can handle the maximum output of the solar. So that's how we work with the utility and your loads right now in the vault and the 2 hangars, what system we can put on. Once the system is sized, then we do the load analysis, structural load. If it's gonna be roof mounted, if your existing hangar can handle that much actual physical load on the hangar and how much space there is.
We're also looking at doing some facility upgrading, possibly maybe addition on, or not quite sure yet. How is that going to affect? If we add more to the load that way, does it redo the whole system, or is
No.
that something?
So it's these systems are grid tied systems, so they're connected to the grid. So it's a simultaneous power coming in from the solar and the utility. So the only thing will change if you add more load to it is you'll be buying a little more power from the utility than the solar. The solar, we typically design maximum or 80% of your load. So
Okay.
if you put a,
So we wouldn't be having to
Right.
add more on
right,
it.
so you could add more to it if you have physical space, but then the electrical infrastructure have to be kind of sized for that, so for the interconnections.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys' time. Yeah.
Thank
you.
Yeah, and you have our information. If you have any other questions, you can always email.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Hey, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to grab Carl for me? Awesome.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Take some cookies.
Does that mean that we're gonna be flying while they're doing the whole project? In ports?
Yeah, well, like, it's sort of side by side.
Terrible check, there is no coffee, it's why, it's ice water.
Oh, it's ice water. Okay.
If they do, it'd be a short cut over or something like that, I imagine.
Yeah, we might be offline, like, we might be out of power for like an hour or two,
Yeah.
but not like.
Scheduled during the break, right?
All right,
Ready?
Yes,
wherever you
go
are.
ahead.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for letting me come and just talk about the installation of solar panels here at the airport. I'm not going to go into a lot of history of the firm or anything like that, because you all know me, you know our firm. And because it's a short time frame, I'm doing this myself. We have in-house people. We're a firm of over 700. And we have in-house structural, we have in-house environmental for all those. But I just wanted to talk more instead of about what we had, how we plan on, what we know the limitations are, what type of restrictions we have to go by, and what the plans are for here. First of all, Mike and I've talked before about where the priority would be, of course, that first of all, the best priority is to get the solar powers on what your highest usage is, which the meters are both over here on the electrical vault, and it would be for this terminal building and for all the airside electrical. We found out when you're looking at the project here to go have somebody install it and pay for the power, that we've talked to Mid-American and confirmed it. I mean, they haven't made any changes. They still require that, for instance, you cannot put solar panels on one building to power a building where the meter's on another building. So, but. Let's see. I can't see a pointer on here, so sometimes you can, but your second priority, if we have, depending on the funding and what kind of bids we get and everything, and we would talk whether it would be all as a base bid or whether it would be as a bid with the bid alternates to add power as we went. But I know your second priority, talking with Mike again, would be the two other areas that have significant power usage. Of course, the maintenance facility here south of this Jet Airs building, and then the Power Performance Lab hangar has a significant power. And then the third priority would be the air care facility on the north side. Its power usage, I think, isn't quite as high, but we're starting with the ones that would benefit the airport the most, and then ones that would benefit some major tenants here. The limitations, again, we've talked to Mid-American, and you, for a ground mounted one, you don't have limitations of what you can power from it, but there's a location out here that's been identified that would be a nice place to put solar panels, and it's a really short run to the vault where the meters are for your airside needs and for the terminal needs. So it makes sense that that could power your highest ones. And then, of course, the meters for the other buildings, there are meters right on the building for that building. So it makes it easy to wire them into the meter. Now, I know there are different things, and we have not talked about whether you would want to do net metering or whether you would want to have some battery storage capacity, because with your net metering, you can only get credit for 110% of what the meter is. I mean, if a meter typically, if you use 100 kilowatts, you can only get credit for supplying it back into the meter of 110. So if you have a usage at a meter of that and you generate 200, you're basically wasting some of your generation if you do it that way. So you might look at what the needs are, and especially as things have been transitioning to more LED lighting. I know power needs have gone down somewhat, so we would have to look at your power needs, both existing and future, and determine how much does it make sense to generate, or if we can generate quite a bit more than we're going to use or get credit for, do we want to use this, look into the battery storage capacity, where you could use that or some sort of a combination there. I mean, typically it's one or the other. There's a lot of different ways to go about this. So one of the things that you would look for, it's also 1 megawatt max is at a given meter, according again to Mid-American. But a megawatt with today's the most consistently used technology takes a couple of acres. And so the area out here, I've kind of estimated it's about an acre because you have to look at the clearances around again, I wish I could use a pointer, but you have the taxiway object-free areas on two sides of that. So by the time you take and have your edges of what you would have for a solar field out there for ground mounted, you've got about 1 acre in that area. Now, if you start closing some of those, there's some little drives there that we could possibly look at closing or modifying and expand it. But again, with the most commonly reasonably priced current technology, you're talking probably 500 to 600 kilowatts would be what you generate in that area, in that acre. If they're building mounted, the ones, if you put them again on the hangar there or air care or our performance lab, there are some things you'd have to look at. You'd have to look at the structural analysis. Now, typically, again, I'm going with the most standard ones that you're seeing. There's about a 5 pounds per square foot load if you mount them directly to the roof. So it would be something, and I mean, that's a fraction of what the snow load is. And depending on how they're arrayed and all that, they can actually shed some of the snow load. So I don't anticipate there would be structural needs. But again, a structural analysis of any roofs that you wanted to put them on would be something that we should look at. Let's see, 7460 is for airspace needs, but if you surface mount them or they're really low to where these locations are, that shouldn't be a problem either. We still would probably, if it's not going to be surface mounted to the roof, we still have to look at it. but those are very easy to do, and I do not anticipate any concerns there. And I know there are the environmental issues because of the floodplain issue, but I've talked to our environmental people, and they said that as long, on the ground mounted arrays, if you put them on a structural stands further up, that the impact would be minimal. They don't foresee any problems, but you would still have to go through the steps. You still have to do the report and get the environmental clearance to do that. Again, for the ground mounted, it's about 1 acre. There's also the issue that area right over in here is already currently being used. So there'd have to be coordination of, is that something that we can move? If so, where could we put it? How can we work and do the coordination and moving on all that? I don't know the people to talk to on that yet, but it would be something that there'd be a lot of coordination involved, because obviously we don't want to do anything that alienates tenants on the field or damages relationships with anybody. One thing that is, again, the best value, what we try to get would be don't overbuild. I mean, you could build, we got a lot of areas we could build several megawatts if we wanted to, but then can you use them? Can you sell them? I mean, if it's not worth it. So we'd evaluate what makes sense to build and then where best to put it. And again, size the arrays to provide the maximum benefits. The next thing there where I say interview with potential bidders. This is something that I'm not a solar powered guy. I don't do a lot of those all the time every day. I don't know the latest technology. But something that actually we're doing this process up in Des Moines, or building a parking garage, and they have what's parking revenue and control systems. And there's new technology with things that are new technology like that, or like solar panels. The people that the manufacturers, suppliers, and contractors that work with it know what the best technology, what the emerging technology is, and they have good recommendations. So the process we're using up there for the revenue control system is we invited several, and anybody that wanted to come in that would be a potential bidder came in and gave a pitch on, this is the technology that we would recommend. This is the technology that's coming. This is something that maybe in terms of solar panels, maybe it's lighter and gives twice the power generation per area installed. But then maybe costs 5 times as much. So again, you're not gaining there. But what we would recommend doing would be getting some of the ones, I mean, and these are just a few, and I just threw up some of the ones that are in this area. We're doing a project down in Washington. There's 9 people who've been talking to about that one, so I didn't get all of them on here. But have them come in, tell us what technologies out there, what their recommendations are, and in a way kind of pitch a process. And then we could boil that down to what makes sense. First of all, we would not want to do anything that would prevent bidders. So if somebody has a proprietary technology, it might be the greatest in the world, but if it's only going to get us 1 bidder, then we probably wouldn't be able to use it. But we could again, try to kind of find the most cost-effective solution while using get up-to-date technology that somebody that just does solar farms and isn't involved with it day-to-day might not be up on. Again, confirm the bidding capability of multiple firms and talk to not only local firms, but regional firms, anybody that would come in, because it'd be a decent sized project. Hopefully we get several bidders, but there's several that aren't very far away that we would approach and take advantage of their knowledge and their recommendations, and then boil it all down into a program that several of them could bid on, and that would be the most beneficial to the airport. Why Bolton and Mink? We know your airport. We're going to have to update the airport layout plan to show if once we determine an area. We're going to have to do the environmental. With having the knowledge of the airport layout planning, having completed it, we'll make sure that all your airspace issues are clear. A glare analysis, we've done several of those. Now, one thing is FAA has said that unless it's a towered airport, those are not FAA eligible. Now, I don't understand why they're not FAA eligible, but it's something we would look at. I don't think they're a bad idea to do, but it's good to know going in that if we do one, the FAA is not going to pay for it. That said, they're not terribly expensive to do, a few $1,000s. So I would, even if they said they wouldn't pay for it, I think it's something we should look at. Because the last thing you want to do is to set it, get an array out there and then install, and then all pilots are complaining about glare. Although as panels have gone to more a no glare options, it's not the same issue it used to be 10 years ago. The 7460 issues, we know all about the 7460 issues with all the clearances and the obstructions and everything. So we understand local bidding conditions. Like I said, we're working with 9 different solar panel companies in this area on a smaller project at an airport not too far away from here. It's in the bidding process right now. And then the history and knowledge of the airport again. We enjoy working with you, want to keep working with you. Responsiveness, if something pops up, you don't have to call somebody to be here a day or 2 or 3 later. I mean, there may be a lot of issues that would be fine. But if you need something immediately, you know, Kitsy, she works with me and she's 5 minutes away, literally. She's just on the other side of the river. And I'm 30 minutes away. And so we can be here. If something pops up, something's going on and we need an answer, we need something looked at, we can be here right away. And with the other things that are going on, we're already here. So, you know, some of the times, so it makes it more efficient too, because if we're already here on another project and we need to look at something, it's not a separate trip to bring somebody in to look at the solar issues. And again, work in relationship with the airport. You know, I've worked with all of you, I've worked with Mike, and I really enjoy that. And kids who'd be assisting me, and of course I would have other people assisting. We would have our structural people, our environmental people. We have double E's that we work with, so they would be working through me and then Kitsy. I'm going to go just in terms of the glare analysis. This was over at Ames Airport, and they have a solar array. I don't know if anybody's driven by on 30 or not. There's a big array. You can see what the array looks like. It's about 6.5 acres of solar. The city of Ames did that one. You can see it's right off the north end of their primary runway. And that there were some glare issues up there. But it came down to the type of panels. And it really, the issues weren't on the primary, the issues were on the crosswind. Late in the day and early in the day is where the glare issues came out. But you analyze all of your runway ends, clear through the day and clear through the year. And at low angles, at certain times in the spring and fall, there were some issues on the crosswind with that one up there. But by changing the panel angles and going with low glare panels, they got it to acceptable levels, and the FAA approved that one. So anyway, time goes pretty fast, so I'd like to open it up to any questions.
So they have a 1 megawatt, is that megawatt hours per day or?
It's the generating capacity of the system. I mean, because on the, you know, again, I won't try to pretend that I'm a solar expert, but if you have the generating capacity and it's generating at full capacity and feeding in that, and
so that's
I
the
don't know,
maximum, that's the maximum
average.
output.
Yeah, they don't give you more credit than 110%, is what they said.
Yeah, of your usage.
Yeah.
Of your usage, yeah. I've got solar on my house, and we were advised to put in 80% of our anticipated use. Then I bought a plug-in car, so we're under that now, but
Now you can add more panels there.
yeah, I guess. Yeah. And yeah, and I don't even know what the system actually produces. I have a little app on my phone and I can look and see how many kilowatt hours it's producing at any given moment and how many kilowatt hours per month or megawatt hours per year. I would think a megawatt would be way less than we use. Do we have
Well,
that?
I don't think it's per year. I think it's the size.
Capable.
Yeah, that's
what
a
they call
million
the
watts.
system.
I would think our,
Your house is probably about a 6 kilowatt at most.
yeah, well, the output peaks in the summer at like 45 kilowatt hours.
Kilowatt hours,
Yeah.
right? That's a day. I mean, that's
Now,
Yeah, because your unit of measure is like, this is how, I don't remember if kilowatt is, well, it's wattage, but it's over time, right?
Yeah, you gotta look at over time.
Yeah,
Rather
yeah,
than
it's like
just-
miles, but then miles,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you'd be looking at not having batteries, but having a generator for power failures?
But you could do either way. You can do the battery
Or
systems.
not. I mean, we don't
Yes.
have any generator now, right? If the
Yeah.
power fails, the power fails.
I mean, what direction you go is up to you. There are a lot of different options and having batteries or not. I know people that have batteries that love them and others that say they're just a pain and they're not worth the time and effort.
They're probably not worth the expense, as reliable as the power generally is around here. And
Yeah, they probably, if you had unreliable power, it'd probably be a bigger deal. but,
Yeah.
And there's nothing that prevents you from going either direction.
How many solar projects has Bolton and Mink done at airports?
I don't know. I have not, I don't just doing the first one right now. If you don't just count Glare several, but beyond Glare haven't, and I'm not gonna overpromise and say, oh, that, because we have.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
This is the second presentation of this sort that I've had with you, and I just wanted to say I appreciate that you gave us information about what the layout could potentially look like and some of the pitfalls associated with the building and layout. And I remember very clearly when we interviewed for the engineering firm that you laid out what our priorities were, and they lined up with what our priorities were. So I appreciate your presentation because it was very detailed about our environment, and that's helpful. It's genuinely helpful.
And you've spoken with Mid-American already.
Yes.
Yeah.
To me, that's important.
Yep.
Yeah, put some of the groundwork.
So not so much a question as a thank you for putting that
Thank
together for us.
Any other questions specific to Carl? Otherwise, we'll let the CMT guys back in, and I know it's kind of awkward to discuss in
I was
front of
gonna say,
everybody, but
Typically, we'll both sit out while you discuss it so that you feel free to stay.
it's a public meeting, so it's a kind of
You're either way.
one of those things where.
To be honest, I probably feel more comfortable sitting down there with them unless you discuss it. But,
I can come get you, that's fine.
pardon?
If that's what you want to do, I can come get you when they're.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna grab it so I don't forget this.
Yes, don't forget your.
Okay.
Control.
So again, thank you very much, and
Thank you.
I love working with you all, and I hope to continue, and hope to do this also.
Thanks, Carl.
Grab a snack on the way down.
Trying to make this argument, but
Yeah, I figured.
I swear, it's like going to
Yeah.
family over Christmas. Eat something.
Eat
You're looking
something.
thin.
Yes. that's
No,
what I-
that's the point. Thanks.
Okay, comments, anybody?
What's the next step in the process?
You guys make a choice between the two.
Do we do that tonight, or do we wait, or do we spend a little time? So
You can certainly sit on it if you want. If you sit on it, I would say definitely make a decision at the January meeting. If you don't want to make one tonight, like I said, you're welcome to sit on it. We can let them know that's what the decision is at the moment is the commission wants some time to collect their thoughts. Between the two of them, I don't think you're going to get a bad product either way. I think both firms are going to be capable. I'm not going to lie, I like CMT's.
So say, is there any value in getting some experience with another firm just to
Aesthetics looks amazing and all.
also deepen the gene pool?
Yeah,
That's-
that's
I like that
it's
they,
certainly an option.
Carl, that's kind of,
yeah,
Mike, that's kind of how we did with Bolton Mink, right? We had AECom as our main engineering firm, and we had one project or something.
We
where did
gave,
Bolton
we
Mink,
selected Bolton and Mink for the master plan update.
And then that just kind of dovetailed into this thing. So
I like that they're connected and that they know a lot, but I feel a lot more comfortable that the other has history of having done them.
they've done a lot of
CMT
it.
have done it and can do it in-house.
And they promise sort of a packaged product with all aspects taken care of.
Yeah,
And I appreciate what Carl said about that they would talk with different solar providers to look at the options for,
Yeah.
which
think there's
panels
still-
do we use, et cetera. Because I know there's all different efficiencies and cost ranges for panels.
Yeah,
And not only panels, but then there has to be an inverter that converts it to AC. All those sorts of things.
but I'd rather have somebody who's already done all that kind of stuff than
Yeah.
have us be the learning one, the learning curve. As much as I like both.
Is that, did I mishear, like, they haven't done any solar projects?
Right.
Bolton Link's doing their first one right now. They've done a few glare studies, but they've never done,
Okay, I wasn't sure if he was talking about the firm or if he was talking about him.
yeah, and know the firm.
Okay, okay.
And I actually see them going out to all the different local providers as a bit of a risk.
Mhm.
Because I don't think those providers have the expertise with airports, and we're gonna have to teach them at the same
Yeah.
time.
They
So,
wouldn't have, they would certainly know their panels and their choices, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But I
I
mean-
think we need the
Then
Yeah.
I'll
airport.
have nations.
yeah, but panels, I think, are generally a commodity,
Yeah.
that they're
Yeah.
kind of all made in, China, and they're all pretty much the same at this point, but I think the airport expertise and experience, at least for me, weighs pretty heavily.
Me
Well,
too.
that was my thought too. When I looked at the two proposals that Mike sent to us, I was like, oh, this is a no-brainer. CMT
CMT, I
wins
think. Yeah,
hands down.
See, it's not a slam dunk for me just because they know the airport.
Yeah.
Bolton and Mink does. And that does count for
And,
something.
and the
It
personal
counts, yeah.
relationship counts for something too. I mean,
It does.
I went and talked to Mike earlier this week and said, I hate it that CMT had such a better proposal.
Yeah.
Because
But-
I really like.
But engineering firms are good. They have their niches and
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel so bad about this. This.
no,
Well, it's got the other
No,
stuff
I
that
don't
he's
either.
doing too.
Yeah.
so.
It's not a feeling thing. It's just
Yeah.
I'm weighing,
Yeah.
Well,
I'm weighing local ground truth versus
Yeah,
expertise, and the portfolio that CMT offers is very compelling.
The other position I'm at is, we've got enough on Bolton Link's plate as well.
Mhm.
It might be nice to have another firm in the mix to handle, if we really do see work ramp up instead of slowing down,
That is a very good point.
you might want to have another airport, or another.
Yeah, that's a really valid point. I totally
For me,
appreciate
that's
that.
actually more compelling.
Yeah.
We
So-
do know we're also about to throw the terminal building and space study in Bolton and me too, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not
So
throwing business at Bolton
Yeah.
Link, so.
There's a lot on the plate, so
so we can pretty much make a decision tonight then.
if
and
you
it's-
asked me, I'd make a decision, I'd go with CMT.
Is there,
That-
There we
that
go.
I
was my-
second that motion.
okay, everybody agreeing on that?
I would agree with it.
Okay, I think we all agree on that. So what do we do now to offer?
We as a commission instruct Mike to smooth it
Um,
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay. So we've got Scott with the motion, Electra
Left your second.
the second, and is that a? call it
Unanimous vote.
It was unanimous.
All in favor?
Yes. I'll let you
Informal
know.
way we've done it today.
Yeah.
I think,
I think it's still.
Well, I will let them know that the discussion is over, and I will probably tell them the results tomorrow. They're
Okay.
welcome to
Yeah.
stick
Yes.
around.
That's fine.
That sounds like,
Sounds
But there's what?
that's a great.
The results will be announced tomorrow.
Oh,
sounds good.
Thanks.
Sounds amazing.
Okay, we've got a little bit of a break for
Chicken.
a few minutes, and then we go into the survey. Strategic.
Did
Yeah.
you like shorten all the early meetings so you could like do a 3-hour meeting to make up for it?
So, I already told my wife I would be home until 9 o'clock probably, so.
I know.
I've got
Hey,
that.
So we can all go out for a beer.
We're staying in the time limit here. I think we're doing very well.
We're doing good. But it's,
Yeah.
My wife is
Wait
waiting for me to get
till
home for dinner,
Mike
so-
gets back.
That's gonna be mine.
It'll be fun.
We'll take a little break till Mike gets
It'll be
back.
fun.
Yeah, I thought we would just be ready to go because you guys don't want to.
well, and you don't want.
And we don't want to keep you around that late either.
Oh, you've got plenty of conversation after we're done. so.
Oh, yeah. Okay, on to airport strategic plan.
You had a clicker,
I have a mouse.
because I can advance it. You stop. Thanks.
So you need the mouse or arrow keys on the
Arrow
keyboard. Take your
keys.
pick.
Okay,
Are you ready?
strategic plan, go ahead.
So what we're going to do tonight is just give you what we would call the external environmental scan. Not a lot of discussion, sort of laying the groundwork for your decisions that you make at your January meeting. We know it's very important to look at land use around the airport as one of the components of the environmental scan. And then I'll present the results of the survey as well, and some ideas and some things that we need to think about before the January meeting. I'd like to introduce my colleague, Jeff Davidson. Jeff is very familiar with this planning process. How many strategic plans at the airport for? Four?
This is the fourth one.
This is the fourth one. So Jeff is going to talk a little bit about the land use and just lay the groundwork for how we're moving forward.
Did you get a chance to interview everybody individually?
I
Except-
am missing.
Okay,
But we'll connect after this.
Okay.
Yes, I'll send you an email.
okay, I just,
Yeah.
sorry for interrupting, go ahead.
No, no problem. Okay.
It's a pleasure to be here. I know some of you. Good to see you again, Judy. It's
Hi,
been
good
a
to see
long
you.
time, but
Yeah.
Michael and everyone. Chris, you were part of this last time, I'm recalling, and I think the rest of you I haven't met, but I'm happy to. Just a real brief introduction, just to add to what Regina said. It was a little over 20 years ago, and I was the assistant planning director for the city at that time, planning and community development. And the airport commission was just coming out of a somewhat contentious departure of, I believe it was Mike's predecessor, just right before you. The commission decided at that time that they really were interested in having a little more oversight over the director. And that had been a concern. I mean, it certainly came out in the departure of the previous director that had been a concern. And that undertaking a strategic planning process would be the way to get a handle on that and get kind of the ship going in the right direction. You had no money to do that with. And I think somebody in the city organization was aware that I'd been helping the fire department with some strategic planning things. So I was asked if I would help the airport, and the price was right. And I said, sure, I'd be happy to do that. So that was a little over 20 years ago. And this is the third update. The original plan was prepared, and then every 5 years or so, we've done an update. I did the second update with you because I was still employed at the city. I'd left the city in 2014. So you hired my colleague, Regina, and Bailey Leadership Initiative to do the next update. And Regina asked me if I'd still participate in it. My day job currently is I'm the Economic Development Coordinator for Jasper County, which is the county just east of Polk County. It's Newton is county seat. So I work with all the towns in the county to do that. But I still live here in Iowa City, so happy to participate in this and look forward to it. Just real quickly, I love this slide because if you ever need to explain to somebody what a strategic plan is, I think this is the easiest way to do it. Where are we now? Where do we want to be in 5 years? You have chosen a 5-year increment for updating. It can be whatever you want. So where do we want to be in 5 years, and how do we get there? I think that's the most beautiful explanation of strategic planning that there is. So keep this in the back of your mind that this is what we're trying to accomplish in the process. I think it has been, if you look at what's happened with the airport over the last 20 years, I think going through this process has been really helpful. It obviously reflects the priorities of those of you who were sitting at the table at that time. Michael has obviously had a long tenure here, so it helps to have that stability. And of course, Regina and I would tell you that it helps to have the stability of the facilitator as well. So anyway, let's just dive into it. What I want to do is just provide a little bit of context for the more specific work that Regina will be taking you through. I think it's really important for you to understand the context of where the airport is located in Iowa City and what all's going on around it. So that's a lot of what we're going to just run through briefly here today. And certainly in the course of our discussion, if you have any questions, just bring those up and hopefully we can get those answered. The basis of our discussion is this document, the South Central District Plan. Some time ago, it was, I think 1999 or so, and I was with the Planning and Community Development Department. We decided to approach comprehensive planning in Iowa City by breaking the city into 10 districts. It's really hard to get people interested in long-range planning, unless you're Judy Fole, perhaps, who has a natural interest in that. You know, people are more interested in current planning, what's happening right now. So what we decided is to try and get a neighborhood orientation to the long-range planning, and that's what these district plans are. These have the full force of the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan being the broadest vision that there is for future growth of the city. And I have to say that looking at this, and we'll get into it here in a second, but it's fascinating to look at how this plan has basically been implemented over the last 20 years or so. And we'll get into that. There are some givens that, and again, this goes back to our original strategic plan that we prepared, and that is that Iowa City will have a general aviation airport. It will be at the existing location of the Iowa City Municipal Airport and be approximately the size of the existing site. And Regina and I thought it was important to A, raise this again, and B, give you a little of the historical context. Back when we did the original plan, there was some, I think some of it coming out of the what had been management or mismanagement of the airport at that time, some concern about the airport and people raising these issues. And the city actually undertook, I can remember it very clearly, a airport relocation study that evaluated the notion of the airport being somewhere else in Johnson County, not at this location. And it was a very, very contentious process. It involved basically finding a 700-acre site somewhere else in Johnson County. Well, you can imagine how that went over to the potential locations elsewhere in this county. But there were 2 locations identified and evaluated along with the existing location. And this was the conclusion that was adopted by the city council. And as far as I'm aware, tell me if you know differently, still remains basically what we're going to try and do. Obviously, you've done a number of enhancements out here and basically established yourself here. And I certainly don't perceive that there are nearly the issues that there were. So we're gonna proceed from this. Any questions about this? Okay, let's move on, Regina. All right, current land use. This is a map out of this. And by the way, in Regina and I taking a look at this for this presentation, this document, although it's February 10th of 2000, it has been edited, amended, I should say, 3 times since then. All of those amendments are incorporated into here. So we're working with the most current version of the document as possible. I think this diagram, this map is fascinating because this was current land use in 2000, okay? You can see the airport is configured with the 3 runways that existed at that time. I believe at that time the decision had been made by the FAA that they were no longer going to support 3 runways and that one of them needed to be taken out of service. Of course, the North-South Airport shortly thereafter was taken out. But this is a snapshot of history in 2000. Mormon Trek Boulevard around the south edge of the airport does not exist. Rupert Road and the commercial aviation park that we established, that was when I was here, does not exist. And you can see all the green, all the ag land that existed at that time. This is, like I say, a snapshot. We had not had the flood of 2008 at that time. And that's one of the things that certainly, again, in your deliberations that you're going to have with Regina as the remainder of the process, keeping in mind the uniqueness of this area. And I really think the South Central District is unique in all the planning districts of Iowa City for a couple of things. Obviously, the airport's the significant land use here. Okay, you guys do dominate the South Central Planning District. The fairgrounds is also, you know, probably a significant thing to note in terms of land use in the area. But the South Central Planning District has more sensitive environmental features than any other area of Iowa City. And these include floodplain, hydric soils, wetlands, wooded wetlands, upland woods, and archaeological sites. in this area. A lot of there were Native American encampments along the river in this area that have been documented. When we put Mormon Trek, listen to me, when Mormon Trek Boulevard was put through, those were, a lot of studies were done, and it was documented because we obviously didn't want to disturb anything that we didn't have to disturb. So, and then, you know, a good summary point is that 40% of this planning district, roughly 40%, is in the 100-year floodplain, including a lot of the airport territory, as you know. And then, of course, not uncommon to have airports located in floodplains because it's nice flat ground. It makes sense for an airport to be there, and certainly one with the history that this airport has. So those are all things to note and keep in mind as you're having your deliberations when Regina presents the other information to you. So the future land use map then, again, to me, this is fascinating because this was the future land use planned in 2000. And if you look at that, that's basically what it looks like now. This plan has really been followed in implementing. I mean, you can see Mormon Trek extended, the continuation of it as McAllister Boulevard and the new bridge across the river. And by the way, I brought my pointer, which is obviously of completely no good on a screen like this. That's why I'm pointing with my finger here. You can see the reconfiguration of the airport, the truncating in the north-south direction with the runway being taken out, the establishment of Aviation Commerce Park. You may not even know that's the name, but that was called Aviation Commerce Park subdivision when we put Rupert Road through and established the commercial lots there. You know, the thought at the time was that we would attract aviation-related uses, people that wanted to be near the airport. And obviously, with the exception of the university's function that's there, they're really not aviation-oriented uses, but they were very attractive because commercial uses desired, they liked the idea of working with the city to buy a lot rather than working with a private entity that, oh, you're interested now? Well, the price just went up by 40%. They thought there was a lot less shenanigans working with the city. And so it built out rather quickly and is now a very established use. You know, other things to note are obviously the Highway 1 commercial corridor, a very predominant traffic circulator in Iowa City. Of course, Mormon Trek extended. You can see the large purple area directly south of the airport. And this is a combination of private ground and of course, directly south of the airport is owned by the airport. But that purple is indicated as future industrial ground. Now that's been, again, this plan is 20 years old and there's nothing down there yet, but that is slated as industrial ground. The thought was that the railroad, at least at the time, the railroad had said that for the right use, they take a spur across Riverside Drive and access it with rail use if that was desired by somebody who bought it. And then the transition up the hill where the car dealerships are now to more commercial orientation, and that's the pink and the crosshatched area there. You see hardly any green as in ag land. Most of that's all gone now with this plan. And you can, you know, again, see some of the green areas to the south reflect, I think, the flood that occurred in 2008 and the orientation of those areas as basically flood capacity for the next event that we know is coming at some point. A couple of things to note. I did check with the city because I had a couple of questions about things and they were able to confirm a couple of things that since our last discussion 5 years ago are slightly different. I asked them specifically about the area to the east of Riverside Drive. The city is obviously removing the public works facilities there. The transit building is still there, but most of the other stuff has gone away. And I think the plan is for transit to go away at some point. It's just our experience down there with the unconsolidated soils and the landfill has just not gone well. I mean, the transit building is not that old, but it's had a number of problems with environmental issues in the building due to the, I mean, it was remarkable when they dug the hole for that building. You went down not far at all, and it was, you could pull up a newspaper and read it from 1946. I mean, it was amazing how how basically undecomposed, that's a word, the garbage was down there. It was further south, it was burned, and then as it moved north, there was less. People who went to college here in the 50s can say that when the wind was from the south on campus, you could always smell the garbage burning because that was on fire pretty much the entire 1950s down there when that was the landfill. So because of the unconsolidatedness combined with the flood hazard, the plan now is for certainly the area, the floodway area, and as much of the floodplain as possible to be in non-developed use and hopefully get some trails put in down there and that sort of thing appropriate for the floodplain. However, right on the corner, we're right at the corner of 6 Riverside and 1 Highway 1, that could possibly be a commercial use. And that the runway protection area, Michael, maybe you can explain it better than I can, but that does touch that area and goes slightly into Riverfront Crossings, which is across the river, I believe. That was something that any commercial use would have to take into consideration, be a regulatory thing. But I did want to mention to you that there still is the possibility of some commercial uses on that corner, at least according to the city right now. The other thing that's a change from the previous plan that I asked about specifically, because I drove around down there and I noticed that, I'm going to use the name Baculus Thatcher Trailer Parks. I think it's been Cole Trailer Park, and it's even got a different name now. But the trailer park that is right at the corner there of the river and McAllister Boulevard, I noted that with the engineered berm put in there now after the last flood, that they are filling the area that was formerly floodplain, and I assumed with the notion of putting more housing down there. The plan used to say reduction of residential uses in the area was the goal. That is no longer the goal. They are allowing that trailer park to expand. It's, I can't remember, 40 more trailers down there. There was a trailer park at the time this was established up along Highway 1 that was removed. Judy remembers it. And the plan was for Baculus and Thatcher to eventually come out. That's changed. So I wanted you to know that that is a change from the previous plan. They are going to allow residential uses down there. And of course, you see the big orange area directly south of the airport. That was a manufactured housing park that went in against the city's wishes in the 90s. That's county ground. And because it was in the unincorporated county and did not involve a subdivision of property, subdivision of property would fall under the city's jurisdiction. Trailer parks don't have individual lots. So because there was no subdivision, the county, against the city's will, established that down there. And obviously that's a fairly new park and is likely to remain as well. You can see the yellow areas. There's some thought that those could possibly at some point be redeveloped as residential areas, again, with the change in the policy that we are going to discourage residential uses down here. So did want you to know about those two changes. The area along the river that I said was slated for primarily green space in the floodplain. That is a change that I think that policy came out of the flood of 2008 and the extent of the flooding. And then that we're going to not discourage. I don't know that there is a lot of encouragement, but that they will not. Now, the areas south of the airport that are in the unincorporated county still are in the city's growth area boundary, which basically means the city's going to govern what occurs down there. Obviously, currently, they're under the jurisdiction of the county because they're county property and not in the corporate limits. But the city has a large area, if you look at the entire comprehensive plan, that according to the ability to provide sanitary sewer, pretty much, is designated to eventually be part of Iowa City. And so the fringe area agreement with the county says that basically we're going to defer to the city. If somebody comes in the unincorporated county and wants to develop this, they got to get it approved by the city because eventually it's going to be in the city. So that will govern that area to the south, to the kind of to the north and west of the fairgrounds, as that's mentioned. Well, of course, Ryerson Woods will not be developed; that'll be preserved. Can you think of anything, Regina, that I have left out. That's just kind of the summary.
Do you have any
And do you
questions
have any
or
questions?
issues that have come up?
The crosshatch area on the southwest side of the airport there, that's not developed today. Is that still planning on being a commercial development?
Yeah, that commercial or commercial office. And the idea there was to transition and, you know, truthfully, the industrial ground there, it's a little bit, I mean, it's been a long time and nobody has
Mhm.
has come in and wanted that. It could very well be that that could be commercial office as well. But certainly as you transition up the hill and get into more of the commercial area that's along Highway 1, the thought is that commercial or commercial office would be the use. And of course, you now have the car dealerships
Right.
established there.
Well, I would think it would make a difference for people wanting to build there around that area eventually. As far as I understand, the Danes property will become city. And they have some restriction about not taking the hill down.
Mhm. Right.
So that's would make a big difference for what
Right,
people might want in
and
that
of
area.
course, just like the area to the north of where the McDonald's is, then the, you know, the large office building there where the realtor is and stuff. Similarly to the restrictions that they've had in terms of height and lighting and that sort of thing, those would be
So it's still
subject
the
to the
same.
rest of it because of you guys being.
Mhm.
What was the comment on the Danes property and stuff up there? Is there some sort of restriction there? So that's currently purple right now, right?
No, it's the
No.
crosshatch.
No,
Or it
it's
is in the
it's
crosshatch
pink.
area?
Pink
Okay.
crosshatched area. The large, if you can kind of see the large block of purple there, that's under private ownership as well. It's a soybean field this year. And then, of course, once you get past that dashed line, that's all airport property.
But the Dane, Sue Dane and them, we're talking about that they have some kind of I don't know if it's a trust or whatever it is, they have something so that if the last Dane that leaves.
Right.
That land
And I don't know the
becomes
details of that either,
city.
but what you're alluding
It's a
to.
land, yeah.
Yeah.
It becomes.
Some
It
kind
runs
of a
with the
land.
Is that that house
Yeah.
on the hill that we go
Yeah.
over on the airport pattern for runway?
I mean,
7?
that's
Yeah.
that's the
Okay.
family.
That's a
Dane
Dane's
dairy.
family,
There's-
yeah.
I can remember when there used to be dairy cows down there.
Yeah,
Which,
Uh,
what you just, what you
Yes, yeah,
described.
when- When you're doing a right downwind from runway 7, there's a house on a hill there that you, near that barber pole.
Yeah, okay.
that you fly
This is the
over.
one that like suffered the damage from the tornado.
It's this area right here.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, the airport's worked a lot with the Danes over the years as
Yeah.
the runway was expanded. That was all Dane farm property.
It was, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that will ultimately become the city's property at some point in time, or is it, I mean,
Well, that would be up to you guys.
oh, sure.
but it would be, there's something about you can't get rid of the hill.
That is the wishes of the Dane
That's-
family at this
yeah.
time, is my understanding. Now,
Yeah.
we all know that as the generations depart and the new ones become in charge, there might not be the
The ones
same
living in that property at this
attitude about
time.
it. Yeah, at least at one time, there was a granddaughter living in George Dane's house. I don't know if she's still there or not.
Let's see.
Any other
There's a couple
questions?
names still there, yeah.
This is nothing to do with the airport, but I've always wondered if the city was ever considering a beltway around the south of the city.
Yeah, that is something that is in the comprehensive plan. Where the roundabout is on South Sycamore Street is where McCollister Extended will come over and go through that roundabout and then go up around,
Scott?
what's the name of the Saddlebrook subdivision?
Mhm.
Saddlebrook subdivision, and then it'll come up and intersect with Scott Boulevard.
Right, you connect with Scott and then go around the north
So
side.
now it will not be built to highway
wouldn't be
standards.
an
It'll be more of an
expressway.
arterial city street, but that is the thought that would provide them the beltway.
Whatever
Yes.
keeps me from having to use Highway 6.
Yeah, Scott is supposed to eventually on the north side, I think, connect through, because there's a cut through now between Prairie du Chien and Dubuque Street.
Foster Road
Yeah,
extension.
Foster Road Extension. I think
Right.
between the Foster
Oh,
Road
yeah.
Extension and then Scott, there's a partial road through there now. And there's some right of way and they were doing. some
Yeah,
work
beyond
back
Foster Road, beyond Prairie du Chien, and again, you're getting
then. Mhm.
you're getting 9-year-old information
Mhm.
here from me. That area beyond Prairie du Chien cannot be sanitary sewered by the city.
Right,
And it's not slated for development for that reason. And so the impetus for putting the road through will not be there in terms of putting it through so that development can occur off of it. So there'll have to be some subsequent decision-making by the city. Otherwise, you're gonna have that dogleg where you have to take Prairie City back up to Dodge Street and then go down to Scott. That's all that's planned right now.
Right.
Mm.
I get the impetus would be that you would have a way to get around the city without going to the interstate.
But then the city would have to pay for the road because there are no development
Right.
funds to pay for.
I get-
And that's-
yeah.
You
that
know,
becomes-
Foster
that becomes a
Roads-
challenge, right?
Foster Road sat there planned but not built for, gosh, how long, Judy? At least 20 or 25 years until the
Probably,
developer
yeah.
wanted to put the senior housing there. And then that became an
Oh,
impetus
okay.
for extending the road through. So
Oh, I
that's
see.
kind of how it goes with development a lot of the time.
And
Because
now they're doing the development across from over by Menards up to Rourke. They're going to be doing that part.
yes,
that's gonna have some- yeah.
they've just had a district plan amendment for that
Right.
area.
They're going
over
to
there.
tear up our street.
Right.
To put the.
Mm.
So anyway, back to
Sewer
South
line.
Central Planning District. Any questions? And again, we're just trying to set the context here for your subsequent discussions.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the survey that we did, the public survey. The survey was available from October 27th through November 10th. We got about 185 respondents, which was much lower than the previous survey that we had done in 2017, which was over 500 people. The breakdown of residents, the first question was asking people where they lived. The breakdown of residents, the majority of respondents were from Iowa City east of the Iowa River. And then the second largest group, Iowa City west of the Iowa River. I always thought that it would be different because I think of this as more influencing the west side, but this is very similar to what we saw in the 2017 survey. Let's see. The second question talked about the frequency of airport use. When was the last time that you were at the airport? And I categorized these. There were within the past week, within the past month, past 6 months, past year, over a year ago, I've never been to the airport. I categorized these into frequent users, which is weekly or monthly, and then periodic users within the last 6 months, within the last year. Infrequent users, it's been over a year. And then, of course, our non-users. As you can see, the group that was largest that responded to the survey is the non-user group. And if we go back to our where people are from, the largest group east of the Iowa River, 39% of those respondents were non-users. And we'll talk a little bit about what they had to say in a minute. In the west side of the river, the largest group, they were infrequent users, so over a year. Infrequent users, not surprisingly, 50% came to the airport to fly an aircraft. I mean, that's as one would expect. Periodic users, those people who have been here in 6 months in the last year, their use was an event. Interestingly enough, the second use, 22% came here to fly an aircraft. So there are people who come here to fly an aircraft, every 6 months, once a year. And then the infrequent users, once again, events. So just an interesting comment and reflection from my perspective and from what we talked about at the last plan, your idea of getting people out here for events, I mean, that's why they're coming to the airport. So good job you. I mean, I think that made a lot of sense. When we look at the frequent users group, let's see, their second use of the airport was other. And some of the comments there were to drop off an item at a hangar, they were meeting a customer, they work at the airport or the FBO, or they stopped by to do some work on a plane. The next question was asking about asking their agreement with the statement, the Iowa City Municipal Airport contributes to the quality of life in Iowa City. And so this was a Likert scale question. 5 was strongly agree, 1 was strongly disagree, 3 was no opinion or I don't know, essentially. And you can see frequent users they're moving towards strong agreement with that statement, that it does impact the quality of life in Iowa City. Periodic users, once again, they agree with the statement. Once we get into infrequent users, they're not as sure, they don't have much of an opinion. And non-users are more leaning, getting down there to disagree. In all the public surveys, the rating was 3.52. So kind of in the middle. I'd like to see that up a little bit, but since you had so many non-users respond to the survey, it's not surprising that that number is low. Just a side note, for those of you who are math whizzes and adding up those columns, the 155 and the numbers that add up don't match, because somebody didn't answer the use question, but answered this question. So I always catch those things in survey reports. So I just wanted to say that. The next question, ask for agreement with the Iowa City Municipal Airport contributes to the economic impact or vitality of Iowa City. Once again, it's 5 is strongly agree, 1 is strongly disagree. You can see once again that there's a strong agreement from the frequent users and the periodic users. They really see that. Infrequent users, more in the middle, non-users more in the middle, and all the public surveys, a little bit more towards agreement, a little bit higher. These are comparable to what we saw in 2017, and the all public surveys, the ratings were just a little bit higher. Let's see if I have those numbers. The rating for this question in 2017 was 3.57. And the rating for the previous question in 2017 was 3.43. So a little bit up, but a smaller number of respondents. So make what you will of that.
At least like that the non-users should have a little bit better understanding of the economic impact. So that message appears to be getting out there.
Let's
trying.
Let's hope. Yeah, you're
I
trying,
think if
for
we asked
sure.
that question again now, as opposed to a few weeks ago, it may be
Give
strong.
me another week for the Gazette article to come out. So
Yeah,
everybody sees that.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
that
That helped.
timing would have made a
Yeah,
difference.
yeah.
When we look at strengths, this list was developed. There were opportunities to comment on the previous 2 questions. There were opportunities for the public to comment. I also took these from the Airport Commission survey, from your interviews, and from your interviews. So facilities were noted as a strength, and some of the comments were about the FBO and the services for pilots and the hospitality. Events, of course, so many people came here to attend events. Those were noted as a strength or something that the airport does well. It was noted, and this probably came a lot from commissioners, but perhaps some of the frequent users are aware that the airport is financially self-sufficient. And I think that that's,
Might have said that.
yeah, a couple of times. At a
It
couple
wasn't when
different
we started
places.
this process
Yeah.
20 years ago.
Exactly.
No.
I think that that's a huge achievement.
It might have been a goal, not so much a.
Exactly.
It's a strength, point of pride at this point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I think it should be. And the location was noted, and I also heard that in interviews. Its proximity to the downtown is really a plus for this airport. Many general aviation airports are far, far away.
Mhm.
Like, the airport study was looking to establish this airport far, far away from the center of town. So the location is a real plus for this airport, and perhaps something, as we think about the goals for the next 5 years, something to capitalize on. And I'm not exactly sure how that could look, but something I think we should think about. The next question asked about what does the airport need to improve? Interestingly enough, facilities were noted again. Some of those comments, availability of space for hangars, also clearing taxiways, ramps of gravel. That was very specific, but I thought I would mention it. Noise came up, and noise came up mostly from the non-users on the east side.
Sure.
Not surprising at all. And we saw that in the 2017 survey as well. I live on the east side. I hear noise from planes. When it's a late night Hawkeye game, I hear a lot of noise from planes departing, but I guess I'm an outlier, contrary to those people who don't like it. I think it's kind of cool. It's just part of the, to me, it's part of the vibrancy of the community. And maybe that's an angle that, communications can think about in the next plan.
Occasionally, though, we get some planes that they must be hot rods or something, because I can hear them all the way.
Yeah, they're like Harley planes. They're loud.
OPL certainly makes. noise.
OPL is always loud.
Yeah,
when they're flying around.
because I'm all the way over.
They do a
They're
really
the-
good job of
they're
taking
the,
taking off and
operating
heading
performance
west
lab. They're kind of
99% of the
they have
time.
it on your jet.
But whenever the weather's right, they have something going on that they go east, I guarantee you I get 3 calls every time.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's not even in the air. I'm hearing them as they.
Oh, yeah.
As they're.
Yeah, they are,
engines.
those planes are exceptionally loud. You can hear those all over town.
Well, it's gotten louder the last couple of weeks. Is that because they've changed what's available?
Well, that might be the impact of some of those larger ones using
Okay.
us.
It
that-
just, we're, my
that
neighborhood's
was-
hearing it more.
Yeah, I think you might be hearing that because we have
But
had a few,
fewer comments. There were certainly comments from the west side of the river about noise, but fewer.
There's, there minor comments. It's just that people are noticing
yeah.
it a little bit.
Well, and
But most of the people that I talk to and my input to my neighborhood is if you're hearing stuff, think about it as going to the university hospital as transplants, because it's the complaints are when it's late at night.
Oh, interesting.
And that,
That
because we've
stops
had
the complaints.
conversations with, folks about the helicopter traffic
Yeah.
around the university. Like, that's not much we can do, but
And
that's,
not really
that's a
the same.
product of
Yeah.
the university growing and being specialized and
Yeah.
like, they're gonna attract what they attract.
But you're right, it's context, Judy, and your
Yeah.
conversations are
Yeah.
providing that context, and I think it helps
Yeah.
reframe.
Well, and
for
maybe
sure.
we should consider whether there are some noise abatement policies we should be thinking of.
Or,
I mean, good luck getting medevac to, I mean,
You
the
can't.
bulk of the
Yeah.
noise at night and stuff is gonna be medevac. It's
Yeah.
gonna be,
But
People
there are some
understand that.
things you could do, like when I'm taking off from runway 30 heading right towards the houses on the bluff, there's some people there who always call and complain. I tell my students just bank left a little bit and try to,
Well,
avoid
can.
flying low over
If,
this.
if you check your AFD, that there are noise abatement procedures for taking off on 30, and that is the procedure, is to get up and turn away from the neighborhood.
Interesting. So
so-
we should maybe
even
put
if,
something up in the,
Yeah.
because I was unaware of it. I just do it.
So yes, as a flight instructor, yes.
I'm so glad you said it.
I know.
Sorry.
That's just funny.
I may be blushing right now.
another thing that was noted, and it
Sorry.
probably came from some of you, awareness about the airport, awareness about its impact, awareness
Yeah,
about some of the positive aspects of it.
It
Services,
says noise abatement procedures and if I contact airport manager.
Services were
Doesn't say
also-
What it is.
It doesn't say
Okay.
what it is.
Notice-
Oh, why didn't you ever tell me? Sorry.
it's okay, train your flight instructor, it's fine. Services were also noted, and this has to do with hangars, specifically the availability, the cost, repair. Those kinds of things were mentioned, and I can pull out specific comments if you're interested in seeing the comments for sure. Challenges, of course, are needs improvement, some climate-friendly actions, including lead-free, thinking about things like lead-free fuel, those kinds of things, thinking about.
That was me, sorry.
Well, there were others.
I'm sure there were.
Trying to think of what the other ones were. What a friendly action. Oh, just the fact that it's there's a climate impact to any airport, and things need to be taken into consideration, and what can the airport do? And I know that you've taken some steps, but I think for this next plan, it's worthy of discussion about what those next steps are and what the long-range plan looks like. Trail access was mentioned as well, not just by commission members, but others, but providing, with location as a strength, providing some additional trail access or
more accessibility would be a real benefit. So it needs improvement, was noted.
That's kind of a repeat from last time too.
Yeah, it is.
We talked a lot about the fact that the location, you point out the location is a strength, but man,
You
is
can't
it,
get-
you can't get here. And man, is it hard to get the city on board with getting, a sidewalk out here and that's something we gotta
Yeah, and the
figure
big
out.
bottleneck is the Highway 1, Highway 6 intersection.
Yeah.
You can get across it.
Yeah, yeah.
I will tell you that there has been in the capital improvements program of the city for at least 35 to 40 years, sidewalks on one or the other or both sides of Riverside Drive. And you can see how.
Mhm.
It's still in the trail plan, but they're doing CIP very differently because I went to the CIP to look and see, and trails are, it's a little bit less clear than when I was on council about this is going to be in this year, we're going to shoot for this in this fiscal year. So I think that goes back to, I'm going to go to this. It goes back maybe to your strong communication with the city council is talking about that trail and trail access and sidewalks and accessibility might be an approach for this plan.
And you do, of course, have the 8-foot sidewalk around the south side of the airport now. Along Trek Boulevard, there's an 8-foot sidewalk.
So in preparation for the January meeting, where we'll begin to talk about those goals and objectives, some things to consider. Climate action is in the city council's strategic plan. It would be interesting to see what kind of climate action you all think you can take at the airport. I know that you've done some LED lighting at the airport. I know that you're thinking about the solar panel project, which would have linkage. I know that there's conversation nationally about lead-free aviation fuel. I talked to some of you about electric planes, though those aren't immediate, but electric vehicles are available and our charging stations for electric vehicles, something that you could do out here. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that there was some federal ARPA funding for charging stations. I think that there's funding floating around for charging stations. And I don't know if you can get a piece of that action, but that might be something you could think about in an overall infrastructure goal. Trends in aviation. I talked to a lot of you. Of course, this came up much less in the surveys, but trends in aviation, you know that the market for general aviation is small. Fewer people are getting their pilot's license. And so the importance and the significance of this airport, maybe not over the next 5 years, but you need to begin to think about what are the long-term trends and begin to prepare or address long-term trends in this 5-year plan about more pilots, more pilot license, access to aviation. Fewer people think about aviation because it's not visible to them, not only being pilots, but any kind of related, any kind of employment or activities related to aviation. So that's something to think about. Some of that links to your events and how can you feature and promote and highlight aviation and aviation connected activities when people are out here for events. So just some things to think about. The aging pilot population is something that a couple of you mentioned to me as well. And it's very expensive. Flying is very, very expensive. Fuel is expensive, planes, all of that. The airport's finances, self-sustainable, yes. The diversity in the revenue streams could probably use, I work with a lot of organizations. I say this to a lot of organizations, diversify your revenue streams, always, always. And as we think about, okay, maybe electric planes aren't in the next 5 years, but as you think down the road, being dependent upon fuel sales, if things are switching over to electric, what does that mean for you? I don't know. I'm just asking the naive question about what does that mean in the long run for the financial model. And then commission activities. You have ongoing commission activities. We heard one, you're talking about another one after we get done. A strategic plan should incorporate in some way all the activities of the organization. So how do the other things play in? We don't have to point to them specifically, but you're doing some infrastructure sorts of improvements. And so I think that needs to be incorporated in your plan. And so making sure that these aren't side gigs or the strategic plan isn't a sideline, but it's all together. So those are some of the things and how we're going to frame that when we talk about things in January. I'm going to put these up for you. These are the goals from the current plan. A good starting point, place for conversation in January. Which of these do we want to incorporate moving forward? Maybe change the wording, the concepts, you have communications and awareness sort of thing. We talk about the financial aspect of it, increase the use of the airport for aviation and other community uses. You might want to split those up because you do want to continue to get people out here for community uses, maybe. The infrastructure, and you emphasize safety and aesthetic appeal of the airport. And then, of course, we always need to be aware that you have a master plan, and the strategic plan is linked to that as well. So don't want to lose track of that. When we started this project, there was general agreement that we don't need to spend a lot of time on these. We spent a lot of time on these last strategic plan. We reworked them, we wordsmithed them, but I want to put them in front of you because I want you to think about between now and our January meeting, if that is actually the case. Do we need to look at these? And at the January meeting, I'll ask you to confirm whether, yeah, these are good, we can move forward, or maybe we should rework them, or maybe they need a little bit of wordsmithing. I think that's all I have to kind of set the stage for our January meeting. At that meeting, we'll begin to discuss and determine some general goal areas. And when I say determine, we'll kind of get some ideas, but you'll have opportunities to revisit the ideas that we developed, but we do want to keep the process moving forward. And then we'll identify some strategies to meet those goals. And then we'll check in with the mission and vision statement and confirm if those can just move forward, if we don't need to look at them for this 5-year plan, or if we need to reevaluate them or do some work on them. So that's all I have. We'll be here. I'll be here. You're not going to be here. I'll be here at the January meeting. We'll spend some time. Do you have any questions, comments, or other things that we should be thinking about in January?
No.
Would you like to see the comments from the survey? I can certainly provide those in a document. Okay, I didn't want to provide them just, but I will, probably what I'll do is provide them electronically.
Yeah.
Let's not burn through a million trees to provide comments.
Climate.
Yeah, that'll be our climate mood.
Let's not start off.
Yeah, let's start off strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're welcome to send them to everybody. If you want to send them to me, I'll filter them.
Yeah, I'll probably that's the easiest way. I think that's
Thank
the
you
best
so much
way.
for all the
Yes.
information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And then if you have any subsequent questions, land use, I'm not the expert. This guy's the expert,
Yeah, you
but
can just get those.
get
fun
those
ones
to
through
get, yeah,
Regina,
get those to me.
I'm happy to even come back out again if there was some need to. but
Or
otherwise
if something comes up with land use, Jeff can come back and we can talk about it. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your meeting.
Okay, now we're on to the Hanger mural project. We're just working our way through.
All right. Anybody need a breather?
If you do,
Good.
there's snacks over there.
Let's take a breather.
Take a breather,
Very
get up and, I just need to move my knees.
Quick one.
Quick one. Yes, please. Quick one.
Power through it.
So we get through this next one, the rest of it's gonna.
Yeah, it's all, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get through. Good to see you, Jeff.
Good to see you, Judy. It's been a while.
You come over.
Yeah, I think they still have it up.
Going on, what, 30-some years? of-
Same house and everything?
Yeah.
I was gonna stop my Starbucks, but then I was like, oh, where's my Starbucks? Didn't give them for free.
I looked at them.
So I've got my two top picks. So I've got
A couple of other houses.
For
the artist.
Sorry, okay, now that I know the context, say again.
I got two clear winners.
Yeah,
I've got one, I'm calling my long shot bet.
I had one clear cut and two,
Yeah.
man, it was close.
For me, actually, being an artist, there were some things I was looking for and I saw in Korea.
And that's why having a diverse commission helps. Because I don't see, someone's gonna see something other people are not gonna see.
There was one, you look at it at first, you're like, oh, wow, that's really good. And I looked at it, it's not as good as it think it is. But there's another one that was really good, just he doesn't have the experience. But then there were two, the guy that did like the Schlitz,
Yeah.
he's got, he's got.
Yeah, I was really impressed with him. The thing I was worried about was the budget.
No, we're good.
So
Yeah.
it's a matter of like,
Okay.
one, can we afford it? Two,
Safe drive back.
what's the cost of that?
And that's why I've got the long shots there.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Because
That context makes sense.
that long shots will not do it for free.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So.
Let's back up here. We'll get going again.
Yeah.
I mean, I must want to look at pictures. Because I want to see that. Yeah.
It's tough. 30 years ago.
Yeah.
That was very contentious. That's what I hear.
Yeah.
I just keep thinking about when they bring up the community coming, the lack of pilots. Like, how can we get a partnership with the university? And they don't have it as a
No, they don't. And
field anywhere.
it tends to be, aviation programs tend to be at either established schools that have done it for a long time, or they tend to be at like the community college level. It doesn't- You won't, I don't think you'll ever see an aviation program at an R1 institution in Iowa.
But Iowa State just started one now. They had a dean who was really in aviation.
They could have.
Okay.
And again, I don't know.
Yeah.
Back together.
Purdue's had one for a while.
Purdue, yeah.
Has one, but they
Purdue,
have-
North Dakota.
And the thing is, like, Purdue as a university, they don't do the flying portion of it.
Sure they do.
Well, it is at the airport, but it's a company kind of like,
So it's
Oh, is that right?
yes,
Okay.
because my sister, that's where she got it
Mhm.
from. So it's not part of Purdue, the actual practical portion of it. But the theory, it is Purdue.
The academics are Purdue.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so something like that could work.
You say that, but oh my God, I've flown with students like that in the pattern before, and it is terrifying.
Maybe could.
Okay,
Not to be,
I don't
not
know.
in my backyard pilot, but
okay. Ready to go back to
Yeah.
Mural
well,
project.
Art mural project. So just to catch everybody up, there was a subcommittee. Unfortunately, collector wasn't available. We had to do some stuff without you.
I'm so sorry.
But you get to have your input tonight. So I wasn't too worried that you were getting cut out of the situation. But the original RFQ had 22 submissions, or was it 24?
And there's
24.
24. Yeah.
24 submittals. The subcommittee narrowed that down to 6. And of the 6 we present to you, those 6 to make the final 3 cuts to leave us with 3.
And I hope
And-
everybody had a chance to look at them and do your judging,
I
your
did.
categorizing with the RFQ responses. I guess at this point, I need to get it down to 3.
I like the first one and the last one the best.
I like the first, second, and last one the best.
I like the second, the third, and the 4th one the best.
Okay, so your opinion
So-
doesn't count.
So unanimity not gonna happen.
Not
No.
gonna
Okay,
Got that out of the
Scott
way.
was, what were your 3?
My top
First?
2 is number 1 and 2.
1 and 2.
Clearly. And then I was in the mix between 3, 4, and 6, and I picked 6 because I think there's a long shot there. I
Okay.
really appreciated the concept he put together.
Mhm.
He didn't have the experience doing a big wall before, but it
Yeah.
sounded like he'd almost do it for free just to get the experience. And I thought he nailed it in terms of the concept. Now, we haven't seen concepts for the others yet, but I
That's true.
appreciated that initiative. There's
The first one had some aviation related stuff in his previous works that I liked. Some of the others looked a little cartoonish to me.
Mhm.
I was a little concerned about those.
I would say number 2 is my clear winner. The size of the work he'd done up in Milwaukee.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Also, he was very good. I mean, what he was doing, he got machinery right. He got the motorcycle and the trucks, and that's all spot on. And I could sense again, he had a good palate. He had a good sense of composition, and he clearly had experience with that size of work, although he probably pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And then I liked the number 1, not for any specific reason, just number 1 kind of came out as my number 2 pick. So,
Number 1 was, so the issue I have is that I have my preferences. I was very stringent with the scoring criteria, and my favorites are not reflected in the score.
Good.
Um,
That-
and,
yeah.
and so, as somebody who's gone through like public RFPs that like you have to follow it to the letter of the law because you're spending public funds and whatever. I have no idea what the criteria is here, like how much leeway we have here.
Whatever
But-
you want.
But number 1 was tied for the lowest score I had. They all scored well. But number 1 immediately jumped out for context. That's Jenna Brownlee. And her cover letter was incredibly well put together. The artwork was stunning, frankly. I mean, it was really, really, really well done. And her work was the one that impressed me the most, but it wasn't the highest scoring on my sheet.
What did
She was my
score
lowest,
on?
yeah.
So she's actually scored second highest in mine.
I went really, really stringent on A and B.
Mhm.
I gave her a 3 in both of those.
I didn't because she didn't really expressly mention aviation like the others did. And I forget what please
She
tell me I
wanted,
brought
her,
that.
her main thing was having something be happy and something about nature. And again, yeah, it didn't have anything to do with the airports. And that she just wanted to do something to get bigger.
Mm.
And so I marked her down for those 2. For A, I gave her 1, and B, I gave her a 2.
She also didn't expressly state that she's worked with donors.
Yeah.
And that's very clearly written in the criteria. Again, they were all good.
Yeah,
I
they were all
felt they were
good.
all good. So
Yeah.
I was really harsh, but that doesn't mean that I don't have my preferences. And the artwork from Jenna was really quite stunning, as was the guy who did the Schlitz thing.
Yeah.
But like I told you
That's-
before, I worry about our ability to afford this talent. So,
Yeah.
Well, and
But
again, an understanding of the project goals, I guess I wasn't looking for, people to regurgitate
no,
what was in our RFQ or RFP, whatever it is. So maybe I was reading a little bit between the lines, but I sensed a willingness on from all of them, really to work with the commission and to work with, having experience working with benefactors.
Yeah.
And the RFQ did have a budget number in it that they would be expected to work with.
Okay.
So they
so
knew that part.
They knew that coming in.
Yeah. I really like the Harrison one. Just, I like,
Richard Harrison.
yeah, the
The
third one,
Midsummer Mural guy, is that the one?
the airplane.
Yes.
He did the bits and everything.
Right, yeah.
And I liked it because it wasn't the blaring,
Yes,
it
it was
had
that nice
airplanes, it
biplane
was-
picture, yeah.
yeah, the biplanes and things, but I didn't like the other ones that came out with this blaring bright colors at you it's gonna attack you as you go past. I like the subtleness. I like,
See, I'm exactly the opposite from you.
yeah.
Because,
Exactly the opposite.
because not only does it make it pop, the airport itself doesn't pop. Like
Right.
we have federally mandated colors.
Well,
So
Yeah.
like, it's not great. And the other thing is it matches the city's aesthetic with the murals that we have downtown. So it makes us align a bit,
Yeah.
you know?
One of the
I
things,
guess
in
it
fact,
gets that
I
way.
ranked him lowest on the quality of work submitted from a creativity strength past work. What I didn't, you've got to be bold in order for a mural to stand out here. You've got a big space you're working with. You've got a lot of other things going on. And my fear is that something that's subtle will
Be
get
too
lost. And what's more is I wasn't particularly impressed with the perspective. I mean, I was seeing a lot of missed perspective. It didn't
click with you.
for me, it didn't click with artistic quality. I mean, it was good, don't get me wrong, but I thought the others were better.
But my highest one was Haval. Anyway, being able to do the clouds and the views. I thought it was really good on all of that.
Yeah, and again, I ranked on D, I ranked Harrison, Haval, and McCarthy lowest on kind of the artistic piece. But of course, I was pretty harsh on him.
Yeah, right. You grade what you know.
Right.
And I see why Judy liked Harrison.
Oh, yeah.
because- But it.
A lot of
was-
aviation stuff.
Yeah.
It was indoor space that he did.
Yep.
That's true.
And it was
Yeah.
kind of up, as I recall, near the ceiling, which made it really visible and was well lit all the time.
Or probably have natural lighting too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so.
I don't want to stifle conversation in any means, but so far what I've heard is pretty much everybody here has said they like Jenna. So if we make Jenna one
I like
of the
that.
three,
Yeah,
Yes.
I would not.
okay, we've got one pick.
Yep.
We got two more to go.
I would be
Okay.
okay with that.
Scott, was it you that said that you were impressed with Clayton Scarborough with the initiative of like kind of doing a
Yeah,
mock-up?
he didn't rank as high as Greg or Jenna, but I really appreciated the style. I appreciated the initiative he took in putting it together. I appreciated that, like I said, I think he'd be willing to almost work for free to do this project because he hasn't done anything big before. And you'd be taking a bet on that. So that's the risk. But, I'd be willing to give him a shot.
Yeah, I agree. I really liked his concept.
Scarborough, yeah.
Yeah,
I'd little nit on the font usage on Iowa City, but boy, that concept, you could go with that almost tomorrow. And I thought he nailed it in terms of understanding the history with the,
Yes.
with the plane, the pig, and, Baldwin and the first flight, and, some of those things, just to me,
Yeah.
and then even the travel posters, that exceeded my expectations.
well, greatly. He practically designed, what he
Mhm.
would do, or at least could do if we approved it.
And it would fit being able to do something with the hangars still having to be individually done
Yeah.
so they could be used, still opened and closed and. Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, he or she.
I would really vote for him to be our number one choice. Maybe the fact that he hasn't had experience doing this is in some ways a plus. In some ways, it's a negative, but I think he's going to be really motivated to do it.
Well, we just
really
have to get to three. We don't have to rank them.
Yeah.
We just need a group of three to go with. So it sounds like we've got consensus around
Yeah.
Leighton. And
My third pick would be Greg.
my third pick would be Greg.
It's okay, that's one of my high ones.
I would go along with that.
Okay, so we have our three.
So my list is
They were
Brownlee.
all really
Yeah.
good. I mean, they were-
No, we
Oh,
had
yeah.
some amazing submissions.
Yeah.
Don't-
I just-
and even out of the ones we had that didn't make your list.
Mhm.
Yeah,
We had some
great ones.
some-
And it's an embarrassment of riches when it comes to these submissions, and I just.
I'm amazed there's that many artists that want to do this kind of.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
maybe we should think about more spaces. It's just,
Yeah.
No kidding.
yeah.
I think the only question I had on Leighton was he wanted to do his own power washing. And so did Gospel and so did Browning.
I don't think that's a big
That's
deal.
not a big, those are the only ones that,
There were some,
those were the numbers let down.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, the power washing thing, I mean, if we say we're going to make you power wash professional, we can do that, but on the other
That's true.
hand.
Yeah,
If they'll do it for their price.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a
Um,
plus.
yeah, so, yeah. I
Have
mean,
they
but
seen
that's
the
what the numbers.
space too, and not like they know it's not just flat metal?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
they've seen pictures. Anybody local has had, if you're local, you've had the
Locals.
opportunity.
Yeah,
to
sure.
check
But yeah,
that.
they've seen pictures, they know it's the corrugated.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they know the hanger folds and the door goes
Yeah.
up with it,
Okay,
so,
cool.
and the
That's
size, and, yeah,
cool. I was making sure.
yeah.
And based on what they provide, it seems that they have worked on surface that are not brand new in that.
Yeah.
plan, so.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Lots of.
I was gonna say with with these mural artists, most surfaces they work on are
Not flat.
Or flat.
Or flat, yeah.
Right.
So,
I've always wondered how they do this. They must have some kind of laser something or
Yeah,
some way to trace out their design. It's just incredible.
Okay.
projector, I mean, just.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hell of a nice projector.
What we're talking
Work
about.
only at night.
I got
Okay.
the agenda. They're very cool.
I say, yeah,
Well, sweet.
Okay.
Well, we got our three.
got it,
Yay.
all right.
All right. We'll,
So you contact them or Wendy contact them?
Yeah, it's Brownlee, Scarborough, and Gassel.
Brownlee, Gossel,
Yes.
Scarborough.
Yep.
Yes. Got that. Okay, so the for construction projects.
All right, most of these are basically just things carrying over to spring. Runway 25 threshold relocation, again, some cleanup work gonna happen in spring, nothing new there. Displaced threshold relocation, we're still working with AECom, or I'm sorry, Bolton Mink. Too many construction firms in my head, because I just talked to AECom for closing out grants the other day.
Okay,
And what we're working with Carl and Bolton Mink to get the 1230
Right.
construction.
With runway 25, the painted line that leads to the taxiway Bravo.
Yep.
It hasn't been done.
Yeah, that's part of the spring stuff.
Okay.
Yep. Taxiway lead-ins, there's a couple of spots where they need to
Yeah.
clean off paint. And, if we happen to get any paint that just doesn't last over the winter, we'll touch that up too, but
Sounds good.
yep.
Yeah,
um,
'cause
That's the
There's
list.
a few random things out there in that west end that some, spray nozzle got away from.
Yeah.
Spots.
Cleaned up before winters.
Yeah, so,
yeah.
Okay.
yep, yeah, taxiway lead-ins are certainly on the list of things that need to be done. FAA 24 AIP pre-application, so I guess here's where I'll deliver the bad news. FAA is still on board with basically all the projects we've been presenting. However, we don't have enough money. They did give us the go letter for the terminal building study, so we're again
for
working
that.
with Bolton and Mink for a contract for that. However, because of what we're expecting that price to be, we don't have enough money left over to do all of the solar power project at once. Welcome to limited funds.
Maybe they charged us twice for that fly, the
FAA Tuesday came out with the number that we get for FY 24 in terms of the BIL money. First year was 295,000. Second year is 292,000. Right now, we're looking at about $500,000 for the solar power project. So we're just right at the edge there where, plus we've got the environmental stuff we need to take care of, the floodplain mitigation, some other AOP update stuff, process things that are going to take time anyway. So what they want us to do, and we really don't have a whole lot of choice here other than scrap at the terminal building study, which probably isn't the best option either. Is to hold off, and we'll work with our consulting firm for the environmental stuff, get all of that lined up, and then next fall, when year 3 of BIL money comes into play, we can do the design and construction build out, but that would mean we're looking at 2024 for construction.
And remind me, it's banked, right?
Yes.
It's not.
Yeah, we can
it's-
say.
They're releasing the
save it.
funds, but we still get
Correct.
past credit.
Correct. We can, yeah, we don't lose any of the funds we had. There is a timeline for them. So in FY 26, we have to use things because we can't save all 5 years of it.
Yeah,
and do
okay.
Something at
Yeah,
the end.
which we were never planning. to
But
do.
yeah, that was never the plan.
And remind me, are BIL funds 100% or is there still? gonna be
Nope, they're
matching
still 90%.
Okay.
But we still have the city backing for
For all the money that we're
matching
getting for that?
and
Okay.
that side of things.
And they know that we're getting that much money and they're willing to put it in.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So we're okay. Okay.
Yeah, so city's on board. It's just a matter of, we just don't have enough money.
Okay.
So solar will be a fiscal 24 project.
Solar would be a federal fiscal year 24 project. So that wouldn't be eligible for funding until October of 2023.
So
And
you're,
can we
So-
possibly apply for other funds like this Inflation Reduction Act for the solar?
To start it.
Well, what we'll be doing will be eligible ultimately. So it'll be part of that grant that we just can't afford to write a $500,000 check and sit on it for 2 years.
But yeah.
so are there other projects we're gonna do to spend that money then in fiscal 23?
No, because otherwise we spend the money. We don't have it for solar power.
Oh, okay, so you're saying we don't have enough, they can't dole it out, we bank it, we get it then?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And in the meantime, we're going to start the terminal study. and
We'll
we're gonna
start the
working
terminal
on the
study. We'll be
environmental
doing the 1230 work with the regular AIP bucket of money.
stuff. Okay, yeah. So we still have
We
stuff
still
going
have
on. It's
it.
just not the
Yeah.
timeline we were hoping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not as fast. Okay.
That's a federal project then, based on my experience here.
It's not the greatest, it's not the great spot to be in, but it's the spot we're in.
Yeah,
Um,
we will get them.
But
We will get them.
Okay.
it's still dedicated funding. We just have to wait for the time to check off so we get year 3's worth of money and can use it.
Okay.
Outside of that, I think the FY 24 pre-app pretty much lays out what we've been talking about for the last few years. So just a motion to submit that to the FAA.
We need a motion for that?
Yeah,
Okay.
That was page.
it cleans it up for the minutes.
I'll
Okay.
move that we submit pre-app for 24.
I'll second.
And that can just be all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. DOT grant programs FY 22 South T Hangar infrastructure, still a springtime project. We got contract signed. As soon as we thaw it in the spring, we'll be tackling that. I've had some limited conversations with folks looking for hangars that I keep telling them this is something we're doing to help feed the prospects that hopefully somebody's ready to build when we get done. FY 23 program, terminal building and finding signage. Okay, that,
We need the resolution.
yes, the resolution is on there. It just was a little odd in my head.
Yeah.
Just so you're aware, I do have a handout that is a contract similar to what's in the packet, but it removes some of the indemnity language that was in the original.
Mhm.
And that is because we wrote this under the master agreement, so that language is already in that agreement. Otherwise, it's the pricing and everything is still the same, so.
Okay. So I've looked at this. I would move that we approve the resolution approving work order number 8 with Bolton and Mank for professional services related to airport wayfinding and terminal building improvements.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Roll call, okay. Chris,
Yes.
Electra,
Yes.
Yes.
Warren,
Aye.
me, aye.
All right.
It's passed. Okay,
Parking lot additions, again, waiting for springtime just to make sure seating holds. But as you saw, as you drove in tonight, people are using it. It's open.
It's great. It's good.
Marvelous.
Yeah.
So nice.
okay, future.
Terminal building study, future projects, as I just mentioned, we did get the go letter for the terminal area study. That's what Bolton and Mink, we're gonna do a conference call with the FAA just to make sure everybody's on board with the scope that the Airport Commission is looking for. And that's kind of where that process is. Solar power panels, you made your decision, we'll let that be known, and seeing what you've heard what the timeline is going to be. So we'll be working on environmental stuff in the next year and getting everything set up for that to go. Budget, the city council budget discussions start on January 7th. That's where I'll present. January 7th is a Saturday. That's where we'll do the operating budget. So that's our annual one.
Do you need some of the commissioners?
Nope, that one's just me because it literally is just the departments come in for their selected time, talk for about 10 minutes and run away.
Okay.
And then I think it's the second Tuesday or the second meeting in January is where the capital improvement programs, our construction stuff is slated. I don't have the date of that off the top of my head, but that's what we'll talk about that. And that goes from like 2 o'clock in the afternoon to like 5 or 6.
And is that one you want?
Also don't need anybody there. It's the
Okay.
same thing. It's just me talking about what we literally talk here monthly, telling the council what we're doing, giving them an update on
Okay.
that kind of stuff. Management, this one, there's a resolution. So what's going on over at Hills Bank, the ground that the airport controls, we own that little lake area that's right there, kind of between the river and Hills Bank.
It's in the last page, if you did.
Yep.
Yeah.
I walked past it many times on the trail.
You know which one it is.
They've already been there and cleared out the trees that were there. That was kind of a handshake deal. We didn't particularly care about it, but they want to go back and add some riprap for bank stabilization, stuff like that. So at that point in time, we kind of felt we probably should have a more formal agreement with them, make sure we don't have any liability, stuff like that. So that's,
That's what the needs were.
yeah, so we're allowing a temporary access agreement, or if you approve, we'll allow a temporary access agreement so that they can place riprap and management, and Hills Bank's doing it at their cost.
Okay. So we need to have a motion to consider
Yes, that is a resolution. So
approving temporary easement with Hills Bank.
Sorry.
And it's not finalized yet, because it went to Hills Bank and we're waiting for it to get back. So I did sort of add some language to the resolution that would allow Judy to sign something that's in substantial compliance with what is in your packet with the city attorney's office approval. So just so you know, I mean, I think it'll look very similar to what's there, but there could be some differences.
Okay.
See a roll call.
Okay, roll call, Chris.
Yes.
Collector? Yes. Scott?
Aye.
Warren?
Yes.
Me? Yes. Okay, we'll sign later. All right.
So events, as I mentioned last month, the Autocross Club did talk to me and we got dates for their events. They're on the agenda now. So those are our first planned events for next year. Now that we're kind of done with major construction on the runway, we'll be setting up, Young Eagles, and anticipate the pancake breakfast will be at the end of August like it is every year. We just haven't confirmed those details, but yeah.
Have you talked to the group about or have you considered talking to the group that hosted the films out here about doing that again this year? Because that
We
may
will have,
contributed.
we will have that conversation. I haven't had it yet.
I didn't know
but
when it
yeah.
started, but yeah.
Usually kind of towards the spring, February.
Okay.
Usually when we start reaching out, or they reach out to us.
They did it, what, twice this year, 3 times?
2 or 3
Two
times this
times,
year.
I think.
I think 2 times were official and like one was a sponsored, like a directly sponsored, like specific movie that they showed.
That was a great one.
But yeah.
It's right in line with the strategic plan from last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I remember the list, we were the only site that got used more than once. So they've been doing it around town at different locations, like the Chauncey Park and other city parks. So
But this works so well for us.
yeah, no, it's great. It's a great place, and we hope to keep it going. So
Yeah. Okay, ready to jet air. All right.
don't think these are in the packet this time. I don't know. You can take one passed around. There's nothing,
No, they did
Nothing-
not make it to the back.
nothing all that essential
There was
other
no other
than we
things.
had snow in November, so we put on all the equipment and got to try it out once. So that was good, but not extreme snow, so that's good.
That's right, I wasn't here for that.
Yeah, that'd be
I haven't
nice.
seen snow yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's too bad.
I'm sure we will.
We will, yeah. But other than that, unless there's any comments on the maintenance, there's nothing super significant there. Jet Air stuff, everything's going along good. We just had our company Christmas party. We had 86 employees, which I didn't realize till I was writing out all the letters that there's 86 employees. So it's good.
Wow.
But maintenance is busy. Charter's slowing down just a little bit. But it's got to slow down a ways before it can ever catch up with our ability to cover everything that we get requests for.
Mhm.
So everything seems to be going really good. Fuel prices are coming down slightly. They just reduced yesterday, like 30 or 40 cents. And hopefully as we get more loads, we can continue to reduce it some. But
You guys took over another site, is that right?
yeah. So Macomb Municipal Airport in Macomb, Illinois, there's not a lot there other than there's a business there that's been there for 50 years that we used. They've been for 40 years, I guess. We use them for backup charter and stuff like that. So we bought the business and then, we bought all the assets of the business and then helped one of their longtime employees start his own business. He bought the official business and we lease him airplanes so he can continue operating. So we can't have two charter certificates or anything like that. So anyway.
You own a service shop out of there?
Yeah, so they've got 3 mechanics that are there, 3 and 1 trainee basically, or apprentice. So we just basically added that shop capacity and I mean, it's just like everything else. Everybody was already as busy as they could be, so it didn't really add a lot of capacity, but it's something that
I know
does give us some
you've got
flexibility.
customers that are down south that come all the way up here.
It's true, yeah.
They might go to Macomb, so.
They might, yeah. Yeah, we have people that fly in from all over, and then we have some customers out of Springfield and Quincy. And it's just the biggest thing was we didn't want them to go away in their present state because we use them a lot for charter stuff. And so it was a good opportunity to kind of help that to happen. So good. But yeah, so that's a good thing. And that's included in the 86 employees that are like 6 or 7 people. So not a big deal, but it is a lot of work. So.
It kind of squares you off with your Burlington operations when you get there.
No, we've got 4. Yeah. Nice little try. Been telling Philip for years, I want someplace south. I need to go south, warmer. So 50 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're getting closer.
Yeah.
So anyway. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you guys.
Great. Okay, thank you. Commissioner report. Anybody have anything to report?
No.
No, I think we're done with all of that. Staff report, anything else?
Next week, there is a conversation that the Iowa Public Airports Association is having with the Iowa Workforce Development leaders, just to see if there's anything that we can do to help push the aviation workforce shortage and help support anything that the state can do. I did give everybody copies of the IPA legislative agendas. You're welcome to take a look through those. But that's what the organization is going to be talking to both federal and state legislators about. I will be taking my typical Christmas vacation, so I'll be out of the office from around December 23rd to January 2nd.
Okay.
And I think that's,
Did you get your raise?
yep. Payroll has caught up, so everything is
Everything's
accurate.
working out. Yep, okay,
That's it.
all right,
Next
next meeting, January 12th.